Hey everyone, you're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio, and thank you for joining in on Wattz Up, Summer 2025 Cafecito Edition. Today's episode is on Drip Collective, a coffee shop located in West Loop. We have a diverse cast of interviews covering topics like coffee, music, art, flowers, and how drip came to be. First up, we got Irma's conversation with muralist Damian. Enjoy!
So hi everybody, this is Irma and I have the honor to sit with one of the artists who created the mural at the entrance of Drip Club.
Yes.
Or Drip Collective, I'm sorry. So could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Damian Nickles. I live here in Chicago. I'm an artist. I'm a painter. I also do some sculpture work, some mural work. But yeah, proud Chicago resident.
Yeah, that is so cool. How do you describe your art style?
That's an interesting question. I think it's one that stumps most people.
Yeah.
I think my art is rooted in sort of like either disguising or reusing. My mural work can look very different from my flat work, which I think I'm trying to merge the two a little bit more now. I think a lot of people have a tendency to keep their commercial work and their fine art a little different. But I love using found objects. I love turning spaces and things into things that are unrecognizable. I love pattern, I love color, I love form.
Yes.
My parents are from the Caribbean, so I love super bright colors. And I like to keep things pretty simple, to be honest. One of my biggest inspirations is Frank Stella. Who, I think a lot of people will look at his work and be like, yes, what's inside here? And he's like, this is yellow, this is black, this is blue. Like, so sometimes it don't gotta be that serious. And it can still be impactful and accessible.
I appreciate that just because, I've always learned like something always has to have a meaning to it. And I'm always like, it's just art, you could interpret it in so many different ways.
Totally.
But it's like, it's different on perspective, obviously.
Well, I also think it's important sometimes to not define the feeling that you're feeling, right? Like sometimes you're hanging out with a friend or you're hanging out with your parent or a partner and you just feel a thing and it feels great and you don't have to say, oh, that is exactly this thing. It could just, everyone's had that feeling where you're like, I don't know how to describe it. It just felt good. And I think that's an important thing to allow art to have as well.
So when you describe the feeling, do you think the mural you have, could you describe the mural that's here for our audience that hasn't seen it yet?
Yeah, so it is a series of sort of interlocking and cropped forms. I kind of affectionately call them squiggles.
I love that.
They're very simple forms, but blown up and scaled up. I love playing with scale. I started that sketch as a 2-inch by 2-inch, and then blew it all the way up. It uses the brand colors of Drip Collective. One of the things that I love about this this coffee shop and this collection of brands in general is they're very cognizant of their brand, but they allow it to sort of stretch in ways that an AT&T or a super large corporation might be very strict with how they express, how creativity sort of flows within their marketing. So, they were like, hey, these are the colors we want to use, but outside of that, you have a pretty carte blanche, go crazy. One example of that is Side Practice Coffee also does the same thing. They change their logo every year, very slightly, which is everything in art school told me why would you ever do that?
Right,
you want that brand consistency, but if change is the constant, then you know what to expect, and that actually allows you a lot more flexibility. So it wraps the vestibule. It's kind of like the first moment as you step into the space. I want it to be pretty loud and pretty energetic. I mean, as you can tell, they play their music real loud here. It has a real strong sense of strong sense of identity, and I wanted to reflect that. So
amazing, I love that. So like thinking of like
You
something
can ask me
classic.
whatever you want.
So how did you get started into mural work? Is that like something that developed over time?
Well, honestly, I
Or-
started doing flat work. I went to school for illustration, did some communication design as well. My first mural project, honestly, well, let me back up a little bit. I started doing a lot of flat work, and I started doing a lot of drawing on objects, potted plants, that sort of thing. And I just got the idea in my head I wanted to do murals. And so I went to Home Depot, I got a bucket of white paint, and I had these 4-inch Montana paint markers, and I just started doing like large format sketches in my room at my house, and then I would paint it, I would record them and then paint it over, and then record them and paint it over, and I would post them, and I think people just thought I was painting other people's houses. And so then people would just reach out to me and be like, hey, like I loved what you did, can you do it in my house? So it started with like private commissions, and then it kind of just like slowly grew, but really just like posting stuff out,
Yeah.
honestly, and trying different things.
Yeah. So when it comes to making a mural, what are like your first steps? Obviously it's a sketch, but then what
Actually,
else, you know?
I would not. The sketch is generally not the first.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm a big proponent that like when you go to art school, they don't actually teach you how to make art. They teach you how to build a perspective
Yeah.
and how you see the world. Okay, I like gray and blue filters. I like this. I like that. But they don't actually teach you how to produce art.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, the first step is gauging interests. Somebody might come up to you. Let's say you're like, hey, like I have a new coffee shop called Drip Collective, and I want a mural done. A lot of the time, it really depends on the client, but I try to start off with like a, hey, just a conversation. What are your needs? What is the space? What is your budget? What are you trying to communicate? Then from there, I might go back and pull, depending on how much leeway you give me, I might put together a mood board. I might put together a tone board. I might put together just some sort of, to give you a sense of where my head is at. I would
Yeah.
also ask that person like, hey, why did you choose me? What about my work? Which pieces of my work do you respond to?
Yeah.
So I can get some cues as to like, okay, where do you wanna, because like let's say Volvo, right? Volvo, they make cars, they make SUVs, they
Yeah.
make coupes, they make all kind of stuff. But I wanna get a sense of, you know, before I even
Yeah.
touch paper to pen, then once we have a conversation, I get some sort of direction from you, then I'll start sketching, and I usually will do 3 or 4 different directions, and typically I'll lay out, and it depends on the client and the project as well, but I typically like to say, hey, you get to choose one direction, and then we'll have 3 rounds of revision.
Yeah.
So let's say you're like, we really love this, but this might not fit, can we change this up, can we change that up, et cetera, et cetera. So that can truly feel like a little bit more of a collaborative process. From there, I go in and create what I call like tight roughs, tighten it up, get final approval from all the stakeholders. Then from there, then I'll either decide how I'm going to apply, whether I'm doing a grid system or whether I'm projecting or whether, you know, obviously it was necessary to use a grid system because it's such a tight space.
Yeah.
But if I was just doing on this wall, I might just throw a projector up and then knock it out. And then I get to paint, you know?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more intensive. I think a lot of people like, and I'm sure video audio is very similar. People can think of it as something that, you just start from scratch.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's a lot of, the more you plan, the more you sort of like, you know, the more you get down on paper first, the easier it is to actually just execute.
Yeah. So what are some struggles you had when like creating such a big piece or just like working with like murals in general?
Yeah, I think to be honest, most of the struggles I've had are around working with larger companies. I think how we value art can really fluctuate from company to company, from organization to organization. A lot of times larger companies are sort of like pasting art onto their initiatives, as opposed to companies like Drip, who it's much more an integral part of their identity.
Yeah.
So, you know, needing 10 pieces of 10 sort of 10-step approvals, or needing to be like, you know, creating a relatively simple mural that is like non-narrative with a team of 20 people, right? Who all have says, who all have different opinions, and who are all coming from different spaces creatively, right? This person might be a lawyer, this person might be a marketer, this person might be an engineer, but they all have buy-in.
Yeah.
Not saying that's not important, because I think it's important to have different voices in the room, but I think sometimes, you know, sometimes I think the that can lead to some, it can just make it a little more difficult, right? So I would say that's definitely a big one. I will say also too, making sure that your surfaces are prepped accordingly, and just controlling for a lot of variables, weather, sunshine, temperature. Like I did a gig recently where the company, this was at O'Hare Airport, the company I was working with, they were like, yeah, we primed the surface and everything's great. Underneath the surface that they primed was a synthetic metallic paint, which the two don't bond.
Right, yeah.
So, you know, as you're putting your painter's tape down, as you're putting your paint down, paint is flaking off the surface and you're freaking out and you're under a deadline. And, you know, there's also like, you're in the airport, so there's, you know, you have to be escorted by an employee at all times for safety. And so just, you know, recognizing that there's so many more variables than you think, than just like working in your studio. I think there's a vast difference between commercial work and fine art. And the two are both necessary, but they're sort of two wings of the same bird.
Awesome. So when I was researching you, I saw that your Instagram is called Not a Plant Shop. Could you describe like what that is?
Sure. I love products, which, you know, my work is pretty commercial. During the pandemic, I'd started a virtual plant shop on my Instagram, and I called it Not a Plant Shop. I liked the name. I also didn't want to be pigeonholed if I wanted to move into something else. And also too, a big backbone of the project was collaborations with other artists. And so I wanted it to be a little different. I'd worked in urban agriculture for a while. I was working at an urban farm in back of the yards called Closed Loop Farms. Shout out to Closed Loop Farms. My parents always had plants growing up, so that was a big love of mine. I also worked at the Garfield Park Conservatory for a little bit. So it was a way for me to sort of build a product out of something that I loved and collaborate with other artists. I'm sure, as you know, one thing I love about being an artist is like you have other artists in your community, and artists love to they love to put art in everything. So like, okay, we're having a party, let's make a flyer. We're selling plants, let's do a collaboration. So it was a way for me to sort of bring some of that into the plant practice.
Yeah, I love that, just because like, you know, art was something in my life that I've like had forever. 100%. And like after like going to college and like meeting people who like have the same thought of like, oh, art can be like a career. And I was like, you know, I felt seen. And like even like after graduating, I still like talk to my senior thesis group, and we're like a collective. We're like a collective now. We're like trying to make pop-up shows and like doing other things. So it's like really inspiring, like hearing you talk about like doing.
I mean, it's a language, right? It's like when you go to, like, let's say you speak Chinese, or actually maybe a better example, my parents are from Trinidad. We're very inland, there's not a lot of Trinidadians around. But when I see someone who's Trinidadian, I'm like, you see the world more similarly to how I see it, right? There's just like a shared cultural language, shared visual language. artists get artists, even across mediums. So yeah, it was a cool project. It allowed me to meet so many people. I feel like it really helped me build. Like I'm from Brooklyn originally, but I've lived here for 10 years. It really allowed me to just like build a community here.
Amazing.
It was cool. Yeah. And then after I closed the shop down, I liked the name, and I was like, I'm keeping it.
Yeah, it's like a really good name. It's like even if you're not selling the plants anymore, it's like it's still not a plant shop.
Well, I think one of my old design professors, he was really smart, really sharp, very hard driving. One of his biggest pieces of advice that stuck with me was, as a designer, as a visual creator of any medium, you have two jobs in this order. The first is to seduce the eye and then address the intelligence. You have to seduce the eye first, and then you can sort of say whatever you need to say.
Yeah.
And a lot of seduction can be like what is that? Right? Then just drawing somebody in to be like, can you say more? Like, what is that? What does that even mean, right? So I found like once I kept getting that reaction, I was like, we're gonna stick with that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we are out of time. But thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
And I look forward to what goes on in the future for you.
Yeah, same here.
I'm definitely gonna follow your Instagram and all that.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on.
Vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan. Me pongo a las 5, menos los domingos. Traigo en mi triciclo pan bien calientito, conchas y cuernitos. Vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan. Vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan, vendo pan. Me pongo a las 5.